Welcome to Generation Inspired, exploring the people and ideas shaping tomorrow. Today's guest is Tané Hunter. He's the founder of Future Crunch, co-author of Full Stack Human, and one of the most future-focused thinkers that I know. He has a background in science and AI research, so he helps people better understand the massive shifts happening across technology, education, and all of society. He's also a former US mountain biking champion and ocean sailor. Wow. Now, in this conversation, we unpack AI, the future of education, why schools are struggling to keep up with the pace of change, and the important skills young people actually need moving forward. And remember, if you enjoy this episode, make sure you follow the show wherever you're listening today. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Generation Inspired. And we have to admit that today's conversation is something that I've really been looking forward to. Purely because I am literally loving everything AI at the moment, and being in education, I'm constantly on the lookout thinking about how are we going to use this to benefit kids moving forward, especially now the world is changing so fast. And when I look at mainstream schooling, I don't think that they're preparing, and I'm going to be really keen to get other opinions on this today. So hopefully, Tané, we've got you here to unpack it all with us today. A huge welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm really excited that you're having me. I love your work, and we've been friends for many moons.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And actually, at that point, I will share the documentary again afterwards, where I'll put a link to a very special documentary that Tané was in after this, which he has got a cool story about, actually. Being stopped for his autograph at the airport, was it?
Yeah, it was on Qantas and Jetstar flights on the TV, and then I didn't know that people would come up after flights and be like, "Oh, I saw you on the back of the chair in front of me. You seem like a cool nerd. Tell me something inspiring."
Oh, I love that so much. Well, let's talk about that because you are so future focused. But before we go there, I want to go all the way back to that young Tané at school in the education system. What was that like? Tell us what you were like back in the day.
Well, I was born in rural New Mexico, about 40 kilometers from the Mexican border. And I was a white boy and it was like 90% Hispanic, largely Catholic. And I had a bowl haircut and a rat tail and wanted to be a paleontologist, total nerd. So I didn't fit in whatsoever. I was born
that must have been hard.
yeah, a Tasmanian mother and a Kiwi father who ended up at the university there. My dad was a professor in mathematics. And so, yeah, I totally didn't fit in. So basically, I spent my time playing in nature. I had a love affair with nature for as long as I can remember. And my key mode of transport to get out there was a mountain bike. And so I went mountain biking in the Colorado Rockies, come through to rural New Mexico. And so beautiful mountains, high desert. They call it the land of enchantment. So it's just a really beautiful landscape or outdoor playground. And so I love mountain biking so much. That was actually my first profession, was a professional mountain biker. And so I struggled to fit in, especially being an atheist in a very Catholic religious world and a science nerd where science wasn't treated as right. There was kind of a lot of anti-science. And so I hung out with the theater kids and the skater kids and the queer crew. So that's the way I survived. And yeah, I understand that fitting in isn't it's how a lot of kids feel, and I think that that's actually a good quality. I think being an outsider, if you're following the crowd and following what everyone else is doing, I suggest you look the other direction.
Yes, absolutely.
So do we. That's so amazing. Okay, so mountain biking. That is a bit different. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I love pushing myself to the absolute limit. I've broken, as of today, 27 bones, largely bike
Oh,
riding.
goodness.
And then actually ended up getting a repetitive stress injury. I broke my back, fractures through L3, L4, and L5, and slippage between the vertebrae.
Ooh.
And that was my first challenge in resilience and adaptability. Because I mean, what I got up for every morning, what I loved to do, was taken away. And that was very difficult for me at the
Mhm.
time. A lot of staring at hospital room ceilings. But what you learn is when one door closes, many more open. And so I refocused on academia. I got my undergraduate degree in environmental biology and chemistry. And so once I finished my undergrad, then I buggered off and went sailing. I was into music at the time. So I had two options: go to Hipsterville, Portland, with the band that I was playing with, Virgin on Kinky. So Virgin on, just a bit of play on words. Or to go sailing through Mexico, Central and South America, and then across the South Pacific to New Zealand, which is actually how I got to be down in this part of the world. And along that, I'm so glad I went sailing and out on the blue, rolling on the blue seas and what look like blue mountains at times. Absolutely terrifying, but a wonderful experience.
Wow.
And I fell in love with marine biology because the South Pacific is like a living in underwater National Geographic special. And so I was absolutely convinced when I was done I was going to be a marine biologist. And as serendipity would have it, I was walking in the Cook Islands in Aitutaki, and I was walking down a beach sand street, white sand street, and I'd professed my love for marine biology to a bunch of sailors. And I met up with a couple of cruisers walking down the road, and they're like, "Hey, Tané, you're a nerd. There's a whale dissection on
Wow.
around the corner, a bay down the road." And so I went to check it out, and it was hot and stinky, and a Cuvier beaked whale. Cuvier beaked whales are really interesting. They're the deepest diving of marine mammals. So they have really interesting morphology. And this woman, Darlene Kenton from Harvard Medical School and the Oceanographic Institute in Woods Hole in the United States, was there as the lead. And she was the world's leader in cetacean ears, so marine mammal ears.
Wow.
Because they can dive so deep, they have really interesting morphology. So they have fat pads that can sense sound and vibrations through the water through their fat pads. That's how they hear and communicate. And so they were whale, and it was led by a bunch of excited volunteers, but it was a bit too hot and stinky and grueling. And another weird fact about me that you might know, I would not know, is that I'm an anosmiac. So I was born without a sense of smell.
Oh, wow.
And so I was fit for the job.
Same
But
job for you.
yeah. So a lot of the time, taste and smell are highly linked, but because I was
Mm.
born without it, I have an impeccable sense of taste. So that's still there. But anyway, we'll back to the story. So during the 3 days of dissections, we were doing a post-mortem analysis to figure out why this beautiful creature had decided to beach itself. And I professed to Darlene Kenton about marine biology, and that's what I was going to do. And she gave me some incredible advice that changed my life. She said, marine biology, it's a saturated field. You're probably going to end up doing your PhD on like a sea sponge or an algae. Algae is cool. I mean, arguably some of the coolest creatures on planet Earth. They produce 70% of the world's oxygen. So yes, save
Wow.
the whales, save the Amazon, but save the phytoplankton, the algae. That should be one of our key species to on planet Earth. But so she said, marine biology is saturated, but if you can focus on genetics, DNA, the code of life itself, then you can apply that to any facet within the study of life, which is biology.
Wow.
And that sat with me for a while. Finished up in New Zealand, ended up house painting as my first job. And then got into hospitality for a while. So I showed up to a job interview in my painting overalls, let's say I forged my resume, I just copy and pasted one from my friend back in the States and said, sure, I have hospital experience in painting overalls. And then I got the job, and 3 months later, I was a manager of a restaurant. We were opening a new one, and we were doing a build fit for the new restaurant. And it was the day before opening, and the manager at the time said, so Tané, or someone clean the bathrooms. So I cleaned the bathrooms. And after I was done, we had a team meeting, and she's like, who the cleaned the bathroom? I was like, oh no, oh shit, I did. And she's like, Tané, that's attention to detail. Points at the manager, you're fired. Tané, you're the new manager. And that's how I got my first managing job.
Well done. There's a lot to be said for attention to detail when cleaning.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes, even so, whatever you do, do it well, even if it's cleaning the loos.
Yes.
And then I ended up managing some of New Zealand's premier vineyard restaurants and
Wow.
wineries. And I actually began work essentially as a sommelier, even though I can't smell. So but I have an impeccable sense of taste, so I could pick up the grape, the variety of the year, Fulton
Wow.
wine like that. But I remember doing wine tastings and oh yes, the bouquet reminds me of my grandmother's garden. So I'd pretend that I could smell.
It's
But because no one would take a sommelier seriously if they knew they couldn't smell. So that's how I chameleoned my way through that. But yeah, that was sort of immersion therapy to prove that I could, one, learn how to smell, and I also suffered from severe social anxiety. So that was my immersion therapy. And I think hospitality is a great skill and job to have, a vocation, because it teaches you how to read people. And
so
when there's a
true.
problem, you have to go directly to it and actually have a conversation and deal with conflict on the fly. And so I think people should have conflict resolution certificates and degrees in psychology and sociology if you've cut your teeth in hospitality.
Without
I
a
think
doubt.
Yeah, for future generations, if you have to be a lowly waiter at some point, great. You are learning incredible human skills that will set you up for the future. The stuff that AI cannot replace.
Oh my goodness. I have to say that you are like the poster boy of why traditional schooling, grades and exams do not matter. Going
Yes.
that, the pivot between going from school, feeling how you did, to following your passion, number one, going mountain biking, then sailing, and then finding and experiencing a passion with marine biology, and then the experience. This is what I try and tell parents, like, don't stress too much about the bloody grades that your kids are going to get. It's about
Yeah.
life experience, right? What would you
Really
say
is.
to that? Like, did school prepare you if you look back?
No, school doesn't. Well, school prepares you for social hierarchies, teaches you how to interact, and play, creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, resilience, adaptability. That's what it teaches you. It doesn't teach you how to, well, I mean, it might teach you how to solve differential equations, but that's not that important. And the aptitude tests that they give are completely meaningless. I mean, you need grades that if you want to go into higher schooling, like graduate school and university, I mean, you should probably get a passing grade. But in the earlier years, your grades really don't matter. What matters is your ability to communicate, collaborate, play together, play nicely in the sandbox, and empathize. And I think, yeah, modern day school system is all about exams and
Mm.
grades and aptitude testing. And that's really based for a world and a workforce that doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, IQ, I think it was in like 1917 when it came out. IQ was the mainstay metric for potential and aptitude. Smart people ruled. People got into
Mm.
universities based on their IQ and exam test results. But then we started to notice that brilliant people, like brilliant engineers, didn't play nicely in the sandbox together. They couldn't work well in teams. Genius CEOs were bulldozing their staffs. It turns out that being able to solve differential equations doesn't make you good at not being an asshole. And then, Then enter EQ, we've heard about that a lot in the past few decades. Your ability
Hmm.
to communicate, empathize, collaborate, those are essential. But it matters more your ability to read the room rather than acing exams and what degree you have. But then, the pandemic rolled around to 2020. Yes, we all probably have feeling PTSD from that. But AI, climate chaos, pandemic all at once, suddenly IQ nor EQ could save you when the game board kept flipping
Mm.
mid-play. And that's why I've really, over the last couple of years, been focusing on AQ, adaptability quotient, which is
Ooh.
what some people call it. I like to call it adaptive intelligence, because it's not about just surviving change, it's about becoming better because of it. Your ability to bend without breaking. It's really your ability to identify what is relevant, unlearn knowledge, because adaptability is not just about
Mm.
learning new things, it's about unlearning what you've been taught in school, for example, old ways of thinking, and really to make a conscious and continuous effort to change in real time. And the crucial thing is your adaptive intelligence and AQ is something that can be trained for and you can get better at. It's a mindset like physical fitness that can be worked at, trained for, and when you do, you get better at it in the process. Because your brain isn't fixed. We know about neuroplasticity. Your brain fundamentally remodels itself in response to experience. That is not a motivational poster, that's neuroscience. But it only truly works when when you realize you're mistaking familiarity for wisdom. And I think a lot of people do that. And that's what happens, right? We start our careers, our pursuits with our mind wide open. There's so many pathways we could choose.
Mm.
But then, somewhere in the middle, you begin to hone, streamline, perfect.
That's right.
Congratulations, you're getting good at this. You're saving time. You're being more efficient. But I think what happens with a lot of people, they hone too much. They get stuck, they carve ruts. And when you get
Mm.
stuck in a rut, everything looks like the right direction, right? I like to say ruts are like graves with the ends kicked out. But I think a lot of people find themselves falling into these ruts with the blinders on, just stuck in their industry and start saying things like, that's the way we've always done things around here, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And once that happens, you're losing perspective. Because 6 months from now, it's very likely your role will shift. And what happens when an algorithm, AI, comes along and takes over 30% of your daily tasks? But the question is really, what do you do with that spare capacity? And I think a lot of people wait for certainty, but that's not the key to success in this day and age. It's the people out there getting their hands dirty, playing with new things, trying new things out, experimenting, collaborating, and staying curious. I like to say, be radically curious. And I think especially parents and teachers need to realize kids are born with adaptive intelligence, like maxed out. They're shapeshifters by default. And the school systems don't build that. It chips away at it instead. It rewards consistency, not adaptability. Yeah.
You're
And
so
so,
right.
yeah.
Because even with my son who's in prep now, he's a very curious boy. Like a
Oh,
question
that's
for
great.
everything, multiple questions, love it. But then he came back within the first term and he's not asking questions anymore because he's asked too many, which I'm like, what? This needs to change. You can't stop the curiosity. You kill everything when that happens.
Yeah, the world is a far more interesting place if you're curious about it. And the more you know, the more you know you don't know. And I think, this generation of schooling and also the workforce builds the high achievers. It's all about your achievements. And there's something, I believe Michael Simmons wrote about it first. He calls it achievement syndrome. And it's really where you tie your identity to achievements and
I've been
the
there.
goals you've kicked. and you sort of get success blindness. What's the next thing? And of course, a performance review that goes badly, all of a sudden, that means you're useless, you're a piece of shit. But that's not actually the truth. So tying your identity to achievement, which the workforce, today's workforce in school promotes, I think is a big problem. Instead, and well, I mean, I hate saying embrace your failures, but I mean, the question is, do you learn more about your successes or do you learn more from your failures? And for me, I've learned far more about my fuck ups than my successes.
So true. Well, if you
A
think about
million percent.
how kids learn when we were kids, when it comes to walking, they fall over and they
Yeah.
only get better by falling over and trying again. And we lost that at a certain point as adults in particular, but even at younger ages, like we're wired to fail at things to get better.
Yes.
So I find that really interesting.
Yeah, and I think, well, I mean, take AI I love your point that the way we learn to walk is by tripping, falling, and failing. The way we learn to talk is not by reading a dictionary and learning all about syntax. We mumble, we mess it up, we screw it up until we finally sound coherent. And I think a lot of people are freaking out about AI for a number of different reasons. There's Silicon Valley hype. There's the doomsayers who say that AI is going to steal all our jobs and AI we can't control. But I think if you're worried about AI, the best advice that I've heard comes from Ruben Hassid, gives great advice. Just play with it like a kid. Get messy, screw it up, try it again until you get it right. It's not something that is beyond you, and it is not something necessarily to fear. The more you understand it, the more you play with it, the better at it you'll get, and the more calm you will be about where the trajectory is heading. I call this intelligent optimism too. Let me be clear about what it's not. It is not toxic positivity or just saying everything's okay. Slapping a smiley face on a dumpster fire. It's not the person in the room saying everything's great while the building is literally flooding. It's your ability to hold multiple truths in your head at once. It's dialectic thinking. Yes, things are hard. There's a lot of bad things going on out there. But yes, things are good. There are incredible people out there doing amazing things. And yes, things can get better. And so the doomsayers hold on to the first one, the world is screwed. The Pollyannas, the naive optimists say, hold on to the second, everything's going to be great. AI is going to save us all and fix climate change. But the interesting people, the highly adaptive people, the people who actually cause real change, hold all three of those things at once. And I think one of the biggest emergencies in the world right now is not everything that's going wrong. It's our inability to see what's going right. And we get,
So true.
because of the news media, the social media, the algorithms, they figured out obviously that fear sells, cynicism gets clicks, and that broken, divided people are far easier to manipulate. And if one great piece of information for the future generation and for the parents and teachers who are guiding them is this idea of information diet. The knowledge you consume is fundamentally shaping your worldview, your mental health, and your ability to make good decisions. And I think people lose sight of that. What comes out, and it affects your ability to see potential and positive outcomes. And I mean, science backs this up. The more positive, solution-oriented content that you take in, the better ability you can see potential around you and positive outcomes. And so it's a fact-based, science-backed way to improve your resilience and adaptability. And the way I'd like to, do you remember Michael Pollan's book about food and defense of food?
I do.
think he came down with the mantra, what was it? Eat food, mainly vegetables. I forget what it was, but I think we should take that to information. Ingest information, not too much, but mostly evidence and not the negative stuff.
Yes.
There's no problem finding negative information, and you will find out the negative stuff at dinner tables from your conversations with friends. But I think what you won't naturally find are all the incredible solutions that everyday individuals around the world and organizations are doing that are actually making this world a better place. And if you focus on that, that informs what you believe you can do and what your children can do.
You've just made some incredible points, and especially as a parent, I've never put it into words like that before, but just what my son is taking in is obviously having that impact, and we're seeing this massive rise of kids with mental health challenges, massive amounts of anxiety. We've recently done a parent survey, and the results were so shocking. Every single parent said their child was anxious. How
Mhm.
much, from your point of view, is that to do with just technology? I guess I'm just interested in that because a lot of blame gets put on technology and parents get very fearful. But I kind of stand a little bit in the middle ground with this.
I think technology obviously has a huge part to play in it. We are highly connected now, and the problem with social media and stuff, there's a lot of comparison. I don't want to go too much into this because that's a saturated field. I'm not an expert in, I mean, yeah, well, I am an expert in how much social media screws you up, but I don't think that that's new information to people.
Mm.
But I think what a lot of people forget is about our cognitive biases, our evolutionary
Yes.
hangovers that everyone has that we're carrying around with us that leave us spectacularly ill-equipped to deal with modern change. And I call it bias literacy, your ability to be aware of your own cognitive biases in real time to help correct for them before they cost you. And I think, there's almost 200 that have been categorized by neuroscientists. There's even a cognitive bias index that has 188 of them. And you don't need to
Wow.
memorize it, but it does look like a metro map for the mind. I think there's even an IKEA bias in there. But I think social media and mainstream media, we need to be aware of our negativity bias. We're aware of risk and blind to opportunity. We are evolutionarily hardwired to react to the dramatic and negative, and the
Mhm.
algorithms and media uses that to steal our attention and sell us stuff, basically. And
Mm.
if the product is free, then you're actually the product. And then there's confirmation bias, which helped Daniel Kahneman win a Nobel Prize, I think, in 2002. And it's our tendency to actively seek out information that confirms our pre-existing views. And so if we have a negative viewpoint on the world, which most people do because we get to hear about the worst stuff at hyper speed, fire hose to the face of all the worst stuff in the world going on, and we're just not equipped to deal with that. So we feel bad about the world, and then we
Mm.
actively go out there and seek out information that confirms that view. And we end up in a bad news bubble of our own design if we're not careful. And then I think another one is status quo bias, our default to what's familiar, even when the better alternatives exist. We prefer the current state of affairs simply because it's the current state of affairs. And these things all feed back into each other, and we dig our heels in. It makes us rigid and also cling to ideas that stopped serving their purpose 6 months, if not 6 years ago. And so I think being aware of your cognitive biases is really imperative, not only for kids, but for their parents, because
Mm.
once you understand the way you're wired, then you can start rewiring it or use the good wiring, so to speak.
Where would a person start with that though? Because that feels huge. Just even being aware of it to then change it.
Well, we write about it a lot in Full Stack Human, the book we wrote. But just look up cognitive bias index. There's a whole long Wikipedia page on that.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Tell us
let's
about
talk
your
about your
book.
book. Yes. I feel like we all need to read this book as parents.
Yes.
Yes, the Full Stack Human. Basically how to stay human in a world ruled by technology. And the first chapter is navigating the maze of your mind. And so we dive into a bunch of the cognitive biases that are affecting how we view the world, how we work together, hopefully play nicely in the sandbox together, but also why we're so divided as a world and we're ill-equipped to deal with the information and all the worst stuff that's going on in the world. And I do want to remind people that there's a lot of bad stuff going on out there, but why focus on it? Unless you're actually actively doing something about it or can do something about it, why are you spending your cognitive and emotional energy on it? All you're doing is draining yourself. If it lets you get inspired and actually create a solution, go out and help, maybe donate to charities or whatever, or actually boots on the ground, actively go help out, then you're just wasting your time.
It's so true that, isn't it? I have this conversation quite a bit. Sorry, Laura, over to you.
No, you go for it.
No, that was pretty much it. I just think that there's so many people out there that they might be ranting, they're out on social media, they have really strong opinions on negative things. Why bother? Just use that incredible energy to do something or just focus on the positives.
That's when the status quo comes back in because it's like, well, I'm so used
Yeah.
to being like this, thinking like this, acting like this. Seems too hard to change sometimes.
Yes, I'm not saying this is easy. It's active, and hope is a verb, not a noun. You have to really, focus on it. And I call it strategic hope. Dr. Charles Snyder spent a couple decades researching hope, and he found two interesting things that hope entails. The first is agency. You have to believe that you can do something, and that is often by earned experience. Actively, what you two have done, actively go out there and make things happen, kick some goals, and make transformation. That gives you agency. So the belief that you can make a difference. And then the other are pathways, your ability to see multiple pathways towards a goal and how to create a solution and hopefully build a better future. And so that's strategic hope, agency and pathways. It's not naive hope. It's not just hope for hope's sake. And I think hope gets a bad rap, but it's an active practice. And that with intelligent optimism are powerful tools. And surprise, we have a chapter on strategic hope and intelligent optimism and adaptive intelligence and cognitive biases.
We all need to read this
Awesome.
book.
And a full chapter on play. Play is powerful. No, kids do it naturally. It's our primal prototyping technology that we've been using for millennia. It's how we learn as kids and continue to grow as adults. We were built to play and built through play. And my co-author, Dara Simkin, let's see if you can see that. She's one of Australia's, if not the world's, one of the leading experts in play and taking it into organizations. And we do a lot of work teaching big organizations improv and how to do serious play. Not play as a nice to have, but play as a strategy.
Oh, I love that. Talk to us about that, actually. What does that look like?
How does that look? It's play is not frivolous. It's actively ignites your prefrontal cortex, which shuts down basically when you feel bad about the world or you're overwhelmed. It shuts down the parts of your brain for creativity, connection, and critical thinking. And play instantly brings that back online. And if you're trying to learn a new task, this is powerful in business. It usually takes, from a neuroscience point of view, around 400 repetitions of rote learning over and over and over again to learn a new skill. Whereas if you're playing, it takes on average 10 to 15 repetitions. So it's actually one of the best ways for the brain to how it learns. And we teach improv as well to organizations. We often like to ask the audience, how many of you have seen an improv show or whose line is it anyway? A couple of people raise their hands. And it's like, how much of your day do you actually think is improvised? And pretty much everyone starts at 70, 80, 90% and eventually gets to 100% because when you're dealing with a world that's changing rapidly and complex, and when you're dealing with another human being, you're pretty much improvising all the time. Then we ask the question, How many of you have actually been trained in improvisation? And no hands go
No
up.
one.
Yeah. And improv is now being taught in law enforcement. It's part of law degrees in business schools here in Australia and across the world now. And so people who can improvise, and it's not just for comedy, it is a mindset and frame of learning that really is a powerful tool, in not only in business but in life. And so we did a gig last Monday for Melbourne Airport and their senior leadership team,
Wow.
and we played with them, and they got a lot out of it. And it does a lot to your brain too. I won't go too much into the neuroscience, but basically it's good for you. It improves your mental health and your ability to learn and not get burnt out, which is one of the biggest problems in the workforce at the moment, and disengagement.
There is. Wow. I can't believe the repetition. I didn't realize that. The 400 times of rote learning versus 10 to 15 when improvising. My mind is blown just at that statistic alone.
That's pretty cool. And then I call
Awesome.
it, Dara and I call it getting your daily dose. Play releases dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. So even if you just want to get high, man, and feel good, get your daily dose of those chemicals through play.
It's amazing. It changes behavior too, because as you're saying all of this, I'm thinking about my interaction with my kids. And when I feel it gets really hard, it's because we're not playing anymore. And we're not
Yeah.
improvising. It's like a fixed mindset around, well, you must do this, and you're not meeting that expectation, rather than going, hey, how about we just play it out, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
And play and reinvent the rules.
Yeah.
And it
Oh, I
changes your
love that.
perspective on things as well. If you're following the rules and not playing around, then everything is very strict. That's the blinders on. If you start playing, you start looking outside. Your radical curiosity comes online. Your awe and wonder. All of a sudden, you're engaged, thinking about things in a different way.
And that's why there's so much science, or not science, but so much research around play-based learning for kids. It is proven that the longer the kids can stay playing instead of just sat behind that table every day, it has so many positives that kind of have that knock on. And the kids just remember things right from playing.
Yeah.
Like when you sat behind a desk just listening to a teacher talk, that's when your mind shuts off, your creativity dies. Yeah, I mean, someone like me with a bad memory in school's the worst. But if you play something with me, I'm going to remember and I'll have a good story around it as well.
Yeah, I mean, some of my earliest memories from education, I went to Montessori school in New Mexico. I remember playing like Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles. I don't remember learning any subject matter. Even in high school, I remember hanging out with friends in those great times, skipping class and going to a coffee shop and having chats about the world and interesting
true.
things. And mountain biking and partying and socializing. That's what I remember. I don't remember a single exam.
Same. It's crazy, isn't it?
Me
Especially
too.
when it was for so many years of our lives and we don't have any
Yeah.
recollection.
Well, I mean, it's designed to make you show up on time, like basically for blue collar work. I mean, that's when you started to see it come in, right? The modern day sort of school system framing. And summer breaks, well, that's because that's when harvest season is, agriculture. It's all built around an old industrial model. Why? And yeah, doesn't teach you anything about the real workforce.
If you could change schooling, knowing everything that you know about the future and technology, what would be the first thing that you'd do?
We'll have a lot more play and collaborative tasks because that's the way the world really works. I think there's still place like learning to read, write, mathematics. But what I would choose instead of tests that are sort of homogenous and all the same purpose, get kids to actually be tested on something they're passionate about. Use AI for something that they care about, not for something some educator that was checked off by government regulations and put in a school system decide. Actually, sort of purpose-based projects using technology, mathematics, language, writing, etc. to do that, but don't have you need to create this project with these sets of criteria. I think that's the old way. I do think AI will be incredibly powerful for the future of education because it can actually tailor and see where kids might be missing out or not quite getting something. And it can be highly personalized. They've done quite a few studies. I think one in of course, it's a Scandinavian country. I
Of
I
course.
forget which one. I think it was Norway, but they found that personalized AI education with kids, they could learn in about 6 hours, 2 weeks of curriculum, and then
Wow.
that freed them up to go out into nature and play and have more time socializing and communicating with each other. And so
We're
because
very aligned.
yeah,
Yes.
and I mean, the classroom is mainly managing, well, at first the boys causing all the ruckus and in the younger years, and then, I don't know, the social dynamics, you're basically putting out fires and managing to make them not all go feral and crazy because they're sitting in a desk bored out of their fucking minds.
So true.
And it often teachers are often dealing with sometimes too the weakest. I hate to say weakest link, but in a subject area, right? You're teaching to someone's yeah to a minority, and with AI they can get specialized help in that area, and the people who might be top notch in that area were probably struggling with something else, and so can be personalized. I think that's where technology can really help with the future of education and free up to focus on the human skills.
Mm. Yes. All I want to do is go, that.
I love that. From looking at the future just generally, what do you see? What are the positive things to come for us all?
I mean, I've been accused of being a future crunch. I hate to predict the future, though. A wise person once told me those that live by the crystal ball die by eating glass. Um, and I think some futurism is a bit of it's charlatanism. I could tell you in 5 years we'll be uploaded into the matrix of the metaverse, but no one's going to remember what you said in 5 years. It might sound nice at the time and great for a keynote presentation to wow everybody's mind, but I think who's going to hold you to those predictions? What I'm truly excited about is what's going on now. We have all the tools we need to solve most of the world's biggest challenges. It's just we're not directing those resources in the right direction. I'm excited about quantum computing and AI unraveling some of the great mysteries of the universe, from the quantum level to the galactic and cosmic level. I think it's going to be incredible for natural sciences, understanding how the basic levers and bits fit together at the atomic level. That's going to revolutionize healthcare. And, I did master's and PhD research in cancer. And so I think it's going to, well, it already is transforming that industry. So medicine and people's health is going to be revolutionized. Our ability to predict climate change and also help mitigate the problems is being, well, to me, not that it's solved because it hasn't been scaled and implemented enough yet, but we have the tools and technology to do that. So I think that's really exciting. And I think what's exciting is we're seeing a massive backlash against AI slop and work slop, and just everyone can generate an image doesn't mean you need to put it online.
So true.
It's becoming more valuable as like true human connection and like arts and crafts that people actually made. Like, good Tassie friend crocheted. It looks dirty. It's a plumbus. I don't know. It's from Rick and Morty. It's a cleaning utensil. Every household needs it in the Rick and
Love
Morty
it.
universe. But stuff like that is far better than anything you can stock standard mass produced crap. And so those are things that are getting me excited because that trend is that cultural backlash is building, which is great.
Oh, I'm excited about the future. What about you, Laura?
Me too.
Oh,
Cannot
yeah,
wait.
definitely. And now, because I feel like for the first time
Mm.
in a long time, we're seeing some really positive shifts. And that's maybe just because I'm in education and I'm feeling the shifts there all the time.
Yeah.
But that's been super interesting. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
I feel like the parents listening, the educators listening, there was a lot of things that were really good to hear. And for anyone that's interested in reading Tané's book, we'll put all of the links to all of his incredible work in the show notes. So please go, and check out more about him because he's just awesome, and Future Crunch, of course. But thank you. That was
Thank you
super
so much.
cool.
Thank you. I love chatting to you too. And
That
to
was
everyone,
amazing.
to everyone out there, stay curious, stay human. The world needs it.
Amazing. And for anyone listening, don't forget to press follow just so you can come along for the ride for many more of these conversations. And we will see you next time.
Until next time, keep thinking bigger about what's possible. I'm Liz Volpe. See you on the next episode of Generation Inspired. Follow the podcast so you don't miss what's coming next.